Today's collectible spot, we are having a look at the Square Enix Play Arts Kai Batman Arkham Knight, figure number 5, Batgirl. The most excited figures, at least speaking from my standpoint, one of the more exciting figures I wanted to pick up from the Play Arts Kai releases of at least the Batman Arkham Knights was figure number 5, Batgirl. She is recommended for ages 15 and up as she does have a choking hazard, small parts not for children under 3 years of age. The front of the box features a really nice moonscape there with the figure presented in the front foreground. Go ahead and spin the figure to the side, or at least the box to the side, and you've got figure number 5, Batman Arkham Knight from the Play Arts Kai releases. The back gives us several different ways the figure can be displayed, as well advertising figure number 6, which is the Nightwing figure as well. And finally, just before we open up the box, you can flip the flap open. There is just a Velcro, magnetized closure there. Open it up. Inside, a very small read-up, as well as the figure, the interchangeable hands, and the several different accessories that she comes included with. The read-up for Batgirl, let's read that one. With brains and brawn, she is Batman's ally who is as smart as she is beautiful. Fiery daughter of Gotham City Police Commissioner James Gordon, her real name is Barbara Gordon. She works behind the scenes as Batman's ally to protect the order and peace in Gotham City from the other side of the law. Batgirl boasts incredible physical capabilities with speed and flexibility. She defeats her enemies with overwhelming combat skills and executes her missions smoothly. She is also savvy with computer technology, often referred to as a hacking expert by her associate Robin. With brains and brawn, she is truly a dark heroine who is as smart as she is beautiful. That's a pretty good read-up on Batgirl. Spot's going to take a break and get this opened up. When we come back, though, we're going to get a better look at the Play Arts Kai Batman Arkham Knight figure number 5, Batgirl. There's more heading away, guys. Don't go anywhere. If you're no stranger to the Play Arts Kai figure releases, then you probably have seen this more times than not. It is certainly the smoky translucent display stand that comes included with the figure. The neck is adjustable. We can go ahead and pop that out. There's actually 2 peg holes there, one at the back, one at the middle section. So you can change that depending on where you want to place the stand. Equally so, as you can probably guess it as well, if you've seen enough of these videos, this adjustable neck here can be adjusted up and down through the little slots provided. Then at the top, you'll probably notice it's a little bit loose here. Sadly, it just takes a lot of tightening. I find from time to time these get loose all the time. This section here wiggles, moves up and down, and you've got an open and close waist clip. Again, nothing spectacular, nothing different, and I wish they would really change or look to change their display stands so it wasn't always this one, this always go-to one. I wish almost that they would go to a black display stand, but that's just my opinion. Let's move that to the side. Okay, so let's have a look at Batgirl. Maybe before we look at the figure, get her to properly stand, that is, let's look at some of the accessories that come included with the figure itself. Well, for starters, she comes with a ton of interchangeable hands. I was almost expecting that the hands defaulted to come in the sockets. We're going to be closed-fisted, but actually they're relaxed palms. If you do want closed-fist hands, though, she does come with a pair of those. She does come with a more extended hand. And actually, it's also a good way to show some of the super detail that they've put into even like the hands, where the knuckle portion of the hand is got almost an armor plate to it, and then she's got the little black, I don't know what you would call that, like the more flexible component to her glove, allowing the hand to open and close easily. She does have that, again, a matching pair of open hands. And then she's got the hands more suited for holding accessories. So for example, let's see here. Well, there's one for the Batarang. Batarang will just sit right into that little crevice area of her hand. And then she's got the much more open hand for holding her grapnel. I think it's like a grapnel line blaster. So there's her hands. We'll put those to the side. And that's segue ourselves then into the accessories from a weapon standpoint. And again, I think this is like a grenade, like a launching line blaster. Spot has not actually played Arkham Knight, or certainly not to the level of being more involved in the game. The blaster itself really looks cool though. It doesn't have a lot of, well, it doesn't have any paint. It does have a slight more, I guess not lighter brushing or lighter airbrushing to the back section, and also in the areas in the middle where it comes across more lighter gray. Predominantly though, the color is a dark gray, borderline a black. Then she also comes included with a Batarang. And they've only added just a little bit of paint on the edges, that of a silver wash, or just a little silver paint line on the sides. I can say at least from a stability or just longevity of a Batarang, at least it's a thicker plastic, so I don't feel it like it's going to bend or break like perhaps some of the DC collectible releases, where the DC collectible figures were so thin, even just taking them out of packaging, they either would break, or I'd be extremely worried that they would break. So at least like this is a good thick Batarang. Something like that seems small, but it does go a long way, at least. And then that brings us to Batgirl herself. I was really anxious to get this figure. Now in hand, the figure is good, but truthfully, it's not as good as I would have hoped it was going to be. Let's perhaps start with her head, and we'll kind of work our way down. I guess to some regards, the head might be the more disappointing aspect of it. I mean, it's not a bad head sculpt, don't get me wrong, but I feel like something is missing. And I don't quite know what it is. Perhaps it's the mouth sculpt, which I find is glaring. Like, the mouth seems awfully sculpted. From the side, it doesn't look so bad. In fact, profile is one of the more prettier looking PlayArts Kai releases, but then when you start looking at her from the front, the eyes, like if I cover this portion off, the eyes are actually pretty good, but then there's something wrong, at least I find there's something wrong with the mouth. I would have liked if maybe we saw some teeth or a slight indication of a partially opened mouth rather than something closed, because there's something that's doesn't quite come together for me. And to be honest, it actually looks better on the side or on an angle than it actually does front on. The eyes are painted decently, although they come across almost dead because the coloring is so incredibly light. They read as if they should be green eyes, but again, the coloring is so very light that it makes her eyes almost look like she's dead. I like the sculpt of the cowl. I like that it does have an armored approach, which is something that PlayArts Kai figure releases tend to do. They go more of a more mechanical or more armored up design rather than a traditional design. And for Batgirl, I think it does work pretty good. I'd be more bothered if this type of cowl was used for a Batman, but somehow for Batgirl, I think it actually works. The hair sculpt is decent as well, and you may not be able to see it, but there's a little ratchet hinge joint here on the hair. Though the sides of the hair don't really do anything, they're just strictly a soft rubber. The back, however, does have a hinge. So you can move the hair back as if it's, it's blowing a little bit more, which, goes a long way, especially when, displaying her. If you have the hair slightly to the side, the head slightly to the side, and the hair kind of just cascading out, it actually looks pretty good. Although, obviously, much like capes, you're going to see a big gap in between the area of the hair that came out and where, there's nothing really going on right there. The rest of the outfit is good. She has this lighter gray, which I actually was not expecting, a lighter gray in the sides of her torso, as well as the V-cut that's at the top of her torso plate. And that actually carries right up to the area of her hair, or the area of, I should say, of her head, where it's got like a mesh, almost like a chainmail sort of effect that they've got right up to the chin portion. It's got, I would say it's got pretty good details to it. All the little riveted joints here, and let's just move the arms up here. All the little areas on below. Like it would make for a practical suit. Obviously a traditional comic suit where she was just wearing a fabric doesn't really sell well for something that she would be able to survive, get, hit or fall, and not obviously suffer some serious damage from it. It makes sense that she would be more of an armor-plated outfit rather than just, again, a traditional fabric. I like the front Batgirl logo, at least from a color standpoint, but I wish it did more a little to the sides, where to me it doesn't read as much as a Batgirl logo. It kind of looks like just two diamonds with like a little bat formation in the middle here. I wish it kind of just, I wish it would have just done a little bit more on the sides. As for the sides, speaking of the sides, she has a coloring that I wish actually wasn't this color. In fact, she's got 3 different choices of yellow. She's got the more lighter of the yellows banding around the top area of her torso, or around the shoulder area here. And then she's got that same slight similar color where she's got that, and then a caramel kind of shading that's done to the sides. If only though that same color could have been carried over to the gauntlets, and especially in the boots. The boots don't look, well, the boots don't go with anything else. Well, they go slightly with the interior of the cape, but I wish that they went more with the color here rather than just being its own thing. It's like the color of a very yellow beige, as opposed to like being this color right here. I feel like if you're going to choose a color, make it consistent with the entire figure. If you're going to go with this color for the boots, I wish that this color would have also carried over to the gauntlets, which would also have carried over into the actual emblem. It just seems like too many different colors that they're incorporating into one figure. And the boots especially stand out like a sore thumb. Then you've got the cape, which is a traditional Play Arts Kai cape release, although very much more slender. Batman capes, of course, billow more so out, as well as the Superman capes, but they do have the adjustable hinges. Like these little hinges can move out, as well as they can rotate out as well. And then there's actually a main hinge that's right on the underside here that allows the whole entire cape to fan out as well. So you can move that out, and then you can move these sides out depending on how you want to have the figure displayed. When it comes to her posability, it's about the same as, perhaps the same as the Wonder Woman that we just had a look at. Her head is on a ball joint, but then she's got a secondary hinge joint, secondary ball joint at the base of her neck, allowing for different pose options there. We've already discussed the hair, how it does have that little extra hinge joint there. Shoulders rotate out via that same ratcheted joint. They hinge out, as well as forward and back, but I find this one arm is extremely stiff. And sometimes when it comes to Play Arts Kai figure releases, I've learned in the past, when you've got a lot of resistance, don't force the matter too much, as sometimes these can break. You've got the ratcheted arm as well, which serves almost as a double hinged elbow. A rotation in the hand, also ratcheted back and forth like that. Then she's got the upper torso ball joint. She's got a secondary ball joint at the base of her torso. Legs go forward and back, but once again, really, really stiff. It almost seems like she's there's very little give. Now granted, the sides of her lower torso are more rubbery, but even still, it doesn't allow for much clearance to bring the legs out. Perhaps if they had maybe sliced Or you know what, maybe if they'd even just made it a more circular shape to clear the legs, I think I would have enjoyed that a little bit more, as it seems like the legs are really limited. She has a swivel cut at the mid-thigh portion, of course the ratcheted leg area as well, and she's got also the ratcheted ankles. Talking points for this figure, just as a broad, just a summarized, let's look at the pros, let's look at the cons. Truthfully speaking, the figure I feel has slightly more cons than she does pros. From a pro standpoint, the costume design is good, I like that, but the execution of it is poor. Like the motion of moving the legs out, I feel like the whole time the legs are struggling to get past these flaps. Of course, joints are stiff. That's always something that you get when you get these brand new figures, getting them out of packaging. But as history has shown us, PlayArts Kai releases, sometimes when there's resistance and limited in posability, you don't want to force it too much, as the figure's arm, figure's elbow, or figure's really leg sockets could break off. Of course, one of the other things, as people have mentioned in the previous reviews that we've looked at these figures, is costs. The cost of these, granted they are imports, but the cost of these are getting considerably high would be an understatement. The Batgirl here, I think, I'm trying to remember how much I picked her up for. I want to say that she was about $150. Now the Batmans and the Supermans were selling for about $199. A $200 figure for really a figure where a lot of times, truthfully speaking, a lot of times when I move arms and stuff like that, if I feel like I have to stop what I'm immediately doing for fear that I'm going to break a limb or break a joint, and as well, on top of that, I've got a figure that's about $150 to $200, that's something to... It's certainly something to factor in when it comes to buying these figures. Initially, they weren't this expensive, and inflation being what they are and costs of producing increases as well. But the hard part is a sell of this figure when this figure is $150 and it has shortcomings, even like areas such as the cape. I can move the joints, but I do really worry that the joints are going to break off. I shouldn't have to worry about that. Especially when you have a figure that's $150. As a whole, Batgirl is okay. She could have been a whole lot better though. And for that reason, I don't know if I would necessarily recommend her unless you've really been picking up the Batman Arkham Knight releases. Personally speaking, I think some of the older releases like Harley Quinn blow this one out of the water. This one's got a cool design, but really I feel like a real struggle if I want to do anything with the figure. Today's collectible spot, we were having a look. This was the PlayArts Kai release of Batman Arkham Knight, and I think this was figure number 5. This was Batgirl. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more collectible spots heading your way. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.